Imagine being America's golden couple, living the dream life. He's the nation's flying hero, the guy who crossed the Atlantic solo, cheered by crowds everywhere he went. She's the daughter of a wealthy ambassador, elegant, admired, and just 20-something, with the whole world in front of her. Then imagine their 20-month-old baby boy blonde hair. Bright smile vanishes from his crib in the middle of the night. What comes next isn't just a crime, it's a nightmare that grips the entire country. A story so shocking it earns a name, the crime of the century. Welcome back to Story Rush 2, and today we're diving into the infamous Lindbergh Baby Kidnapping. It's March 1st, 1932. The Lindbergh estate sits out in Hopewell, New Jersey, big and secluded, surrounded by trees. Inside, baby Charles Augustus, Lindbergh Jr., barely 2 years old, is tucked into bed around 7:30 p.m. His nursemaid, Betty Gow, checks on him, makes sure he's asleep, the way she always does. Downstairs, Charles Lindbergh Sr. and his wife Anne are relaxing, enjoying the quiet of the evening. Everything feels perfectly normal. But outside, in the cold night air, something sinister is brewing. Around 10 p.m., Charles Lindbergh Sr. is in the library when he hears a strange sound like wood snapping, a dull thud against the wall of the house. At first, he shrugs it off, thinking it might be something falling. He doesn't bother to investigate. Not long after, Betty goes to check on the baby. She opens the nursery door, and her heart stops. The crib is empty. Number Charles Jr.? No blankets, no baby. Panic sets in. She rushes to Anne, who screams in disbelief, and Charles runs up the stairs, 2 at a time, into the nursery. The window is wide open, and on the sill is a note. A ransom note. Scrawled in shaky handwriting, it demands $50,000 for the safe return of the baby. The note warns not to involve the police or else. Charles Lindbergh doesn't hesitate. He grabs his gun, and within minutes, the police are swarming the estate. Reporters catch wind, neighbors crowd outside. Everyone wants to help, but it's chaos. Investigators find a wooden ladder outside the nursery window, crudely built and broken at one rung.
Ow.
Footprints in the mud trail off into the woods, but they vanish into the dark. The kidnapper is gone. Word spreads fast. The Lindbergh baby stolen right out of his crib. The story explodes nationwide. Newspapers blast headlines. Radio hosts update by the hour. Ordinary folks who barely cared about aviation now obsess over every detail. This isn't just a missing child, it's the baby of America's biggest celebrity, the first modern hero. Within days, ransom notes keep arriving. More letters, all in the same shaky handwriting. Raising the demand to $70,000, the kidnapper gives instructions on how the money should be delivered, insisting on gold certificates harder to trace. At this point, the Lindberghs are desperate. Charles, cool-headed but shaken, is willing to pay anything. He ropes in Dr. John Condon, a retired schoolteacher from the Bronx, who volunteers to act as a go-between. Strangely enough, the kidnappers accept him as the middleman. Letters direct Condon to meet a shadowy figure in a Bronx cemetery. Picture this: a foggy night, tombstones looming, and a nervous old man clutching ransom money. Out of the shadows, a stranger appears. He calls himself John. Thick accent, rough clothes. He swears he's just the messenger, not the mastermind. Condon hands over part of the ransom and pleads for proof that the baby's alive. The man gives him a token, the baby's sleeping suit. It's enough to convince them, at least for now. More weeks drag by, more letters, more stalling. Finally, $50,000 is handed over. Everyone prays the baby will be returned. But on May 12, 1932, the worst possible news arrives. A truck driver near the Lindbergh estate notices something strange along the road. In the brush, less than 5 miles from the Lindbergh home, he finds the tiny body of Charles Jr. The child had been dead for weeks. The skull shows a fracture, likely killed the very night he was taken. The nation's hope turns to rage. This is no longer a rescue, it's a murder investigation. Police focus on the ransom money. Remember, most of it's in gold certificates. Serial numbers are recorded so they can be tracked. Over the next 2 years, these bills start popping up in New York City. Gas stations, grocery stores, little shops. Eventually, one gas station clerk notices something odd. A man paying with a $10 gold certificate. Suspicious, he jots down the license plate number. That plate leads detectives straight to a German immigrant carpenter named Bruno Richard Hauptmann. Cops search his garage and find more than $14,000 of the Lindbergh ransom money hidden in the rafters. They also find wood in his workshop matching the exact type used in the homemade ladder left at the crime scene. His handwriting matches the ransom notes. The evidence looks damning. The arrest is massive news. Headlines scream, "Lindbergh kidnapper caught." Bruno Hauptmann insists he's innocent. He claims he was holding the money for a friend who skipped town. He swears he never kidnapped or killed the baby. But the public doesn't buy it. In 1935, the trial kicks off in Flemington, New Jersey, and let me tell you, it's a circus. Reporters pack the courthouse, sketch artists scribble every detail, and spectators fight for seats. The whole nation tunes in by radio. Witness after witness paints Hauptmann as the monster who planned it all. The prosecution shows the latter evidence, the handwriting comparisons, the ransom cash. On the stand, Hauptmann maintains his innocence. He says the cops beat him, threatened his wife, planted evidence. But in the end, the jury doesn't believe him. After 11 hours of deliberation, they return a verdict: guilty.
Hauptmann.
Bruno Hauptmann is sentenced to death. Appeals drag on for a year, but in April 1936, he's executed in the electric chair. Charles Lindbergh and Anne, broken by grief and overwhelmed by media attention, eventually leave America for a while, retreating overseas. But here's the thing. Even though Hauptmann was executed, doubts linger to this day. Some argue the evidence was shaky, that the cops were under insane pressure to solve the crime of the century. The latter would matched. Sure. But carpenters across New Jersey had the same lumber. The handwriting evidence? Not exactly bulletproof science back then. And $14,000 is a lot of money to explain away. But was it really enough to prove he alone pulled this off? Others whisper about accomplices. Could more people have been involved? Was Hauptmann just the fall guy? Why did the kidnappers use Dr. Condon so icily? Was he somehow more connected than anyone realized? And the biggest mystery? If the baby died that very night, were the ransom negotiations just a cruel game from the start? The Lindbergh case left a permanent mark. Congress passed new laws making kidnapping a federal crime, giving the FBI power to chase cases across state lines. It changed how Americans thought about safety in their own homes. And for Charles Lindbergh, the hero pilot, it changed everything. He'd always be remembered as the man who lost his child in the most infamous kidnapping America had ever seen. Even today, the story lives on in books, documentaries, and endless debates. Was justice really served? Or did the rush to convict overshadow the truth? One thing's for sure. In the spring of 1932, America's golden family faced a nightmare no amount of fame, money, or power could prevent. And that's the chilling story of the Lindbergh Baby Kidnapping, the crime of the century.